If you've been living in a cave and not using depth map for the last 6 months, I don't know, man, I'll tell you what, it is really good. I've been replacing even sometimes, okay, magic mask. Yes, yeah, it's that good. And you remember for your first experience with depth map, it was really bad. It was laggy. But now it's really good. And I'm gonna tell you when to use it, how to use it, everything you need to know. Let's not waste your time. Come on. So as I was saying, guys, the depth map is really bad at right now. Here's a note from the Davinci Resolve manual. Basically, let's start. Like, what is depth map? Is a mask that is based on depth. Okay, so let's add here the depth map so we can start talk about. Okay, so the layout, it's already starting on better, so we can change here, but the process, it was so slow. There, like, most of the time, at least in here, I would have to do everything on fast and then change to better just to do small tweaks and export. Because if you had in the better before, you couldn't even use the computer. Like, it was so bad. But now you'll see that you can scribble around really easy. So in here you'll see depth map preview. This is what you check in order to see the mask or not. So we can compare this to the highlight mode here, stuff like that. We can compare this to the toggle mask overlay here for the magic mask. So it's sort of a highlight mode of your mask. So as soon as you uncheck, you'll still have your depth map, but you won't be able to see what your mask is actually selecting. So invert is literally to invert the results of that selection. So yeah, the first thing that we have here is the resulting map adjustments. As soon as you check this box, you're going to be able to adjust what the manual say is the adjust how the contrast affects your depth map selection. According to Davinci Resolve, the far limit here, according to Davinci Resolve, is when you're controlling your black levels, okay? Second thing, near limit is the controls to adjust the white levels. And then we have the third one, which is gamma. So the gamma is going to be the intermediate depth values, okay? How can we understand this a little bit better? Well, I'll show you how we can understand this a little bit better. I had to record this again, video from the future here, but my webcam was covering the scopes and the drawings that I was doing, but that's okay. So a good analogy to understand the gamma intermediate values of the depth map selection is really easy. We can compare the pivot concept. So we all know that contrast is the distance between the brightest parts and the darker parts of your image. So this is contrast. So if contrast is the distance between the brightest parts and the darker parts of your image, and we know that pivot is the mid zone, the pivot job is to maintain as much as he can the contrast, the distance that you already created, but he's going to move the mid size of your image towards the brightest parts or the darkest parts. So that's how we can understand the gamma knob in the depth map. That is going to move the intermediate values towards the brightest parts or the darkest parts. Okay? It's like pivot. When we adjust the far limit, we are pushing the dark parts of the image, so to speak. And when we do near limit, we are adjusting the bright parts of your selection of our mask. And the gamma is the in-between parts, right? So the next one is isolate a specific depth. So this is pretty much, you're going to set a specific depth, as it says, to isolate that. You only want this portion of the image, and that portion is going to be selected by depth, okay? You guys will understand it better now. In order to do the isolation, you need to check this box, of course. And then let me adjust something real quick here just so we can get a better isolation. So the target depth, which is the first one, target depth. What we need to understand here. In here, 1 equals fully foreground. Okay? And 0 is fully background. 1 fully foreground and 0 fully background. So if we tweak this, you see, I isolated just that line, and then like 1 fully foreground and 2 fully background. We can't reach in there because of the selection of the previous resulting map adjustments. So you see, by doing that, we can select a specific target depth. You can isolate a specific depth, okay? So the tolerance sets the range to either size of your target depth to be included in the depth map, one side or the other, you know, towards number 1 or towards number 0, while 1 being fully foreground and 0 being fully background, okay? And the softness is literally ramp in and ramp out of the selection that you did. So as you can see, we isolated just this area right here, just this depth, starting from here and ending here. You know, it's like you're cutting a slice of the image. So if you do anything here, you see I'm only affecting that portion of the image. Oh, damn, that actually looks great. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to uncheck here so we can go to the next part, which is map finesse. And this, guys, is basically, as soon as you click here to enable the post-processing, you see it sort of gets inside the mask a little bit just to have less edges, like strong edges. This helps to make the edges not as strong as they are in the rough selection. Okay? So the pose filter, it smooths the image along its contours. So the pose filter is, I'm going to uncheck here just so you guys can see the difference. You see rough edges. As soon as you do that, it understands the image more. So if you increase it, the depth map, it's sort of going in the image that you're selecting, you know? And if you go out, it's less intrusive. So rough edges, better edges, okay? This is literally in and out, so you're increasing the selection and decreasing. So sometimes we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but sometimes the edges are still too strong. Sometimes you just want to decrease, not that much, maybe decrease the selection and then blur it out. Something like that. You know, sometimes that work to not have rough edges. Okay? So yeah. And blur, of course, it's blur. And here in the advanced panel, oh my God. Hold on. I just had to pause here. This was not on the version 1 of the depth map. You know, this, guys, this is crazy. Because one of my secret tips for depth map and magic mask before, some of you guys will remember, but I was saying this all the time. A secret tip for a messy mask or a messy selection is a tiny bit of dip flicker. I didn't know that. I didn't know this was on the depth map version 2. That's crazy. Damn. Guess I was right. Like, subscribe. This is a relationship. But okay. So blinking regions, guys. How to separate content from letterboxing or pillar boxing. Those black bars on top and the bottom or on the sides. So I would just leave it automatic or just try it on if you're using that on your own clip. But most of the time you're already going to get an image without them. Okay, so yeah. So process entire frames is going to be just ignoring timeline and just process all the pixels. This is automatic. The AI is going to pretty much know what you're working with. This is recommended to crop away black bars, but it'll help stay consistent with the timeline settings. And manual, it's pretty much you going to decide what to leave in and what to crop and that kind of stuff. All right. So, and the diff flicker, let's check it out. You see there's tiny bit of flickering here in the selection and here in this rock. So when you bump that up a little bit, just, you see, it's less. See, it's more even though it's not that crazy because it's too far, it's small. Damn, that's really good. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the things that I learned with the experience of using this a lot. And I'll tell you guys a few things to pay attention to. If we, let's say we have a frame like this, as you can see, we have this area here, the foreground, right? And the background is so far away. There's not a big distance between, there's not a small distance between the mountains here and the background. So it's a big depth distance, okay? So that's why this is completely black and this is the selection, right? Because the distance here is really, really, really big. When you have images like this, you need to be careful with the edges. So definitely go for post-processing, even though I pretty much use this all of my selections. Definitely go for it. Try the trick that I told you to make the contrast and expand a little bit smaller here and blur it out a little bit. That will help smooth the edges out. That is a really, really good tip. Something else to be careful with. I have another image right here. Let's see. So this image right here. Let's try to select a range here. Okay, something like that. Oh, also, guys, this fog here, this smooth transition from your selection, it's really good. It's really, really good because you won't have like super hard edges. For as much as you will have here in this part, having this is really good, you know, because it avoids flickering and avoid strong separations between your subject and the background. So this is good. Let's say that behind this horse right here, there's a box right here. There's a box. I don't know, whatever. If your selection is trying to accomplish a horse only selection, let's try to pull that off. Let's see. Oh. Let's see if we can do it. Something like that. Something like that. Add a little bit of blur. Post-processing. Make the mask smaller and blur it out. Something like that. When you try to pull out a mask like this and there's an object behind the subject, don't trust just on the frame selection that you do, because a lot of time this box is going to be flickering a ton. Okay, so yeah, now we have a good setting for that, but sometimes the box will be appearing and disappearing, it's awful, you know. So be aware of that when you doing a range specific selection. Probably going for example, this one we're trying to select just the horse. You probably just go for isolate a specific depth, you know, probably going for that. And then after that, just check the entire image to see if the object that you have behind the subject, it's not showing up sometimes, you know. And this is also a tip for Magic Mask. If you're doing Magic Mask, this happens a lot as well. But now with the diff flicker tool right here, it's going to be helping you guys a lot. Guys, I'm not sure if by this time it's going to be available, but you can check the description or the comment section. But I'm going to make few quick small courses opening up big projects like big music videos like the Central C 21 Savage that I did with Cole Bennett for Lyrical Lemonade. I know big commercials like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, name it, I've done it. I've done a lot of cool stuff that I would love to share with you guys. It's gonna be small courses, quick and easy, and you guys will love. So check the description and the comment section if you're interested. If it's available, I'm gonna be putting it in there. All right. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you learned something, and you know what I'm saying? Relationship. I hope.